So we've all seen the age-old question, manual versus DSG. Today's video, I'm gonna tell you why DSG wins. Let's get into it. So perhaps you're thinking about getting yourself a Volkswagen, maybe it's a GTI, maybe it's Golf R, maybe something new, something used, and you're hearing a lot of conflicting information as far as the age-old manual versus DSG debate. I want to give you guys some firsthand perspective on how to approach this and sort of figure out which is going to be best for you. Now, just to give you a brief disclaimer, it's going to come down to personal taste. It is rather subjective. I don't think there's necessarily a wrong answer, but I think by the end of the video, probably more than likely you guys will agree with me that DSG is probably going to be the better option for most people. Let's go through some pros and cons, weigh the differences. Okay, so first and foremost, DSG is going to be the most common thing that you are going to find in most cases, right? So talk about the Mark 7, 7.5, GTI, Golf R, got your all-track, your sport wagon, right? Your GLI. If you're looking at Audis, again, A3, S3, RS3, at least here in the US, they only come DSG. So imagine you're the person in charge of determining what a dealership stocks as far as manual and DSG equipped cars, right? If you go back and look through all your years of sales records, chances are you're gonna find most cases, DSGs are going to be dominant in terms of sales volume over the manuals. So that being said, it's gonna make a lot more sense when they're looking at getting new inventory, they're gonna stock up on more DSGs than manuals. So as far as overall popularity, I think DSG is gonna be the answer. So as far as drivability, right? We could go into a little bit more of a specific topic as far as like how a DSG works, how dual clutch transmissions operate, what makes them different than a traditional automatic gearbox. And you can go through and research that on your own time. I'm not gonna go through that on this video. I think it's pretty much well known that best way to describe a DSG, it's like an automated manual transmission. So it's commonly known DSGs shift incredibly fast, put your pedal to the floor, no lift shift, just basically keep that thing buried and just keep snapping through all those gear changes super aggressively. Manual, on the other hand, is going to be quite a bit slower. So that's pretty self-explanatory. I would say if you're a person going for like your fastest performance, especially like in a straight line, just going all out, DSG is going to be the quicker option. As far as the mechanical limitations of these gearboxes, it's commonly known that with a manual transmission, once you start to tune the car, start producing more torque, you're gonna put more wear and tear on the clutch. So you're probably gonna have to be looking at setting some funds aside for a clutch upgrade. This is going to add a pretty significant cost. On the other hand, with the DSG, as far as the actual physical limitations of the clutches, you can typically hold a lot more power with a stock unopened DSG. With aftermarket TCU software, this programming can increase the clutch clamping pressure to prevent these transmissions from slipping. So whether you're gonna go stage 1, stage 2, maybe some type of larger turbo setup, in most cases, I mean, unless you're talking about building a drag car or you're talking like an outrageously massive power increase, we're talking guys pushing, you know, more than double, triple what these cars produced from factory. You can get away with most of these upgrades with a stock DSG. And again, it's gonna come down to like, how many miles are on your car? How do you drive the car? Are you launching it at every stoplight? Are you drag racing, right? These are all things that need to be taken into consideration. However, when you look at the average cost of a TCU tune with a stock DSG, probably spend $500, $600, $700 max for a TCU tune versus just looking at a clutch upgrade kit for a manual, you're probably $1,500, $1,700, $1,800 for the actual clutch kit, not to mention you gotta factor in labor. So you're gonna be spending a lot more money to upgrade that clutch to be able to support more power than a stock DSG running stage 2 software, grab a TCU tune, you're good to go. The other thing you need to take into consideration is how are you driving this car? Is this gonna be your everyday car? Is it strictly for more competitive use, right? Kind of more taking some back roads, maybe just your weekend warrior type deal, going through some like mountain turns, or are you actually driving this car every day? I think we can agree most people, if you want the comfort of a daily driver, stop and go traffic, once again, DSG wins. Now, another angle here when it comes to manual versus DSG, I think a lot of times people are very quick to put the DSG in the category of just another boring automatic transmission. A lot of people will present the argument, you know, it's gonna be a little boring, it's just not a very driver-oriented, engaging experience. I don't feel connected with the car as I would with the manual. I do understand that to a point, and I think if you're a hardcore, just driving elitist, right? You're just a person who wants to feel just more raw, more connected, I do understand there's a time and place where a manual does make sense. But I wouldn't be so quick to write off the DSG as far as not being engaging, right? Like you can just pop the shifter over into manual, you got your paddle shifters. If you wanna still physically like bang up and down as far as shifting gears, you have that option, you know? So if you wanna kind of give yourself more of that traditional feel, you still get that with the DSG, right? Like you still have that feeling of that mechanical engagement, especially like from stop and go traffic. If you've never driven one of these cars and you're coming from maybe a traditional automatic or you have some experience with a standard manual car, when you hop in the DSG, you can easily tell that it's not a traditional automatic gearbox. So you still sometimes do have a little bit of that, like that slightly more mechanical, clunkier feel. So it's not quite as polished and smooth as you may think. So I think that argument, in my opinion, is a little bit of a weak one. Just again, saying that a DSG, it's not going to be engaging, or it's just not as, you know, driver oriented. You know, it's of course going to be personal taste, going to be a little bit subjective, but I've had, what, 4 DSG cars now. I've had the A3, the RS3, the S6, the GLI, all DSG. I've experienced them in their stock form as well as their tune form, full bolt-ons, all of the applicable upgrades. And man, tell you, a full bolt-on DSG car with the tune, obviously, it's very snappy, it's very crisp, it's very responsive. In a straight line, you're gonna beat the manual every time.
Oh, shit. Oh my God. Okay. Oh my God. Wow. Oh.
So really going full circle, I mean, it's kind of hard, I think, to really put the manual ahead of the DSG. Now, I think if you're a person, maybe if you just grew up predominantly driving manual cars, that's just your cup of tea, that's what floats your boat, I get it, totally understand, I can respect that. But I feel like oftentimes people deep down as car enthusiasts, it's not always about what makes sense or maybe what's the most like practical for their use of the car. I do think it's a little bit of an ego thing a lot of times with the manual guys. You know, it's just this kind of, I'm taking the more difficult approach, or I'm taking the less conventional approach. And with most manufacturers putting a heavy emphasis on, you know, more automatics, more DSGs, less manuals, right? It's kind of like, sort of you're that hardcore, like diehard enthusiast. And it's like, even though you know you probably do a lot of driving and traffic, it's like, are you really doing it for yourself? Are you doing it just to kind of like humble brag and be like, well, I drive a manual gearbox, yes, I'm better than everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that is one lane that a lot of these guys take, and I feel like a lot of people don't want to admit it. And again, I'm not knocking the manual guys, I totally understand that to a point, but it's like, does it really make sense to drive a manual every single day if you're going to be hitting a lot of traffic, right? You're going to have to put a lot more money into that clutch and flywheel, pulling out that transmission, the labor cost. It definitely comes with its headaches, guys. So I just feel like a lot of people, it's like they hop on the groups, the forums, whatever, and it's just like, it's just kind of like a humble brag flex to be like, I do something that's more difficult that other people don't want to do, so I'm better now because of the manual. I think that's oftentimes what it really does boil down to. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, guys. Manual or DSG? What's your take? If you have one of these cars, which one did you pick and why? Lastly, I will say on the new 2025 GLI, another great benefit is if you take a look at the pricing structure, as far as DSG and manual, they're the exact same price. I know in years past, a lot of people sometimes felt a little frustrated that as far as the pricing, there was an upcharge for the DSG, but they've leveled the playing field here on the 25 GLIs, which, hey, this could be the last year of a manual option for these cars. So if you're like a diehard manual person, probably want to grab one before it's over. But I think they did a good job as far as making things super fair. Whether you go manual or DSG, you've got the same base price point. So great job on Volkswagen. So those are just my overall thoughts about the manual versus DSG debate. Hopefully you guys didn't get too triggered in the comment section down below. Stay tuned for more content. I've got a lot more parts coming in soon for the GLI. A lot of exciting things to look forward to. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day.